Welcome, everyone. Hi to those who are just signing on. Welcome to Mondays with Mooch. We'll get started in just a few minutes here. I just want to remind everyone of a couple things before we do begin. Please keep yourself muted unless you have a question, of course, for our speaker or for Joe. Then you can go ahead and unmute yourself. If you aren't comfortable asking your question out loud, you can always use the chat in Zoom to type your question and we'll relay it for you and make sure that your question gets answered. And also, if there is any applause opportunity, please make sure in that instance that you do unmute yourself so that you are not clapping in silence on Zoom here, okay? All right. Carmen, am I forgetting anything?
No, I think that's it. You got everything.
Okay.
I think the one thing is just have a good time.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourselves. And please do ask your questions. Our guests are very friendly. They're very fun. They love your questions. So don't be shy. There's any question is a great question. So feel free to just put it in the chat or, come on air and ask a question.
Yep. All right. I think we are maybe ready to get started. Joe?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because it's Monday. Because it's Monday. And it's Monday, yeah. Come on, now clap. Come on, let's clap. Yeah. Let's clap. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday. Woo-hoo. Are you ready now? Are we ready? Yeah. Because it's Monday, yeah. Oh. It's Monday, yeah.
Welcome, folks. Thanks for attending. My name is Joe Muccioli. I'm the Artistic Director for the Jazz Arts Project, a nonprofit organization which, for almost 15 years, has been presenting and honoring jazz with world-class concerts and high-level education programs. I'm going to introduce our guests in just a minute, but first things first. Thank you to all our donors and supporters and sponsors. Our platinum presenting partner is Ocean First Bank, with support from Monmouth Arts and from you, our supporting members. So a heartfelt thank you, thank you, thank you. So in some of our previous episodes, we explored a bit of historic music making, such as mankind's rhythmic beginnings with sticks and rocks, early vocalises, and even some flutes made out of bone, which of course led all the way to Adolph Sax and his new invention, the saxophone. We can now explore the brass family of instruments, with the early evolution of what we now think of as trumpets and trombones and French horns and tubas. We look to some of their natural ancestors. But first, what is a brass instrument? It's not always made of brass, as we will see, and some other instruments like saxophone in the woodwind family, ironically, they're also made of brass. But a brass instrument is defined as a type of aerophone, which means it is an instrument where one must blow air into it. A musician produces the tone by buzzing the lips with an airstream into what is generally a cup-shaped mouthpiece and a length of tubing that is either conical or cylindrical in shape. Some of the early brass instruments are made of animal horns, such as the shofar, an ancient Hebrew brass instrument made of a ram's horn, which is still used in Jewish ceremonies today. And then we come to the conch. The conch. also known as a seashell horn or the shell trumpet. The use of shell trumpets throughout antiquity is well documented. Someone somewhere figured out that with a minimal amount of modification and by buzzing your lips into the end, it can produce a piercing yet pleasant sound that can be heard for miles. Interestingly, the early Greek roots of the word conch points to an echoic or onomatopoeic origin in that the word itself is descriptive. It imitates the sound that is made by blowing into it. Conch. Okay. The gastropod shell is part of the body of a gastropod, a kind of mollusk. The shell is an exoskeleton which protects from predators, mechanical damage, and dehydration, but also serves for muscle attachment and calcium storage. Of course, in order to be able to make a shell trumpet, it must be after the mollusk has willingly or unwillingly vacated the premises.
This is his foot, and this is where you're going to have the most leverage to pull him out. So, gotta pull him out. It's a little tough sometimes, but when you get him, that's what you're going to get out of there.
Our guest tonight, Steve Turre, was born to Mexican-American parents and grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, where he absorbed daily doses of mariachi, blues, and jazz. I think in honoring his Mexican heritage, Steve found that mastering the art of playing seashells would connect him to his rich culture and ancestry. Shells and shell horns held divine significance throughout pre-Columbian Mexico. The conch shell is a symbol commonly associated with the Aztec feathered serpent and god of the wind, Quetzalcoatl. These horns were used in religious ceremonies, everyday festivals, and dances. Steve Turre is one of the world's preeminent jazz innovators, trombonists, and seashellists. He has consistently and repeatedly won both the Readers and Critics polls in Jazz Times, Downbeat, and Jazz Is magazine for Best Trombone and for Best Miscellaneous Instrument, shells. In 1972, Steve's career picked up momentum when Ray Charles hired him to go on tour. A year later, Turre's mentor Woody Shaw brought him into the Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers. And after his tenure with Blakey, Turre went on to work with a diverse list of musicians from the jazz, Latin, and pop worlds, including Dizzy Gillespie, McCoy Tyner, Herbie Hancock, Tito Puente, Mongo Santamaria, Van Morrison, Pharoah Sanders, Horace Silver, Max Roach, and Rahsaan Roland Kirk. In addition to performing as a member of the Saturday Night Live band since 1984, Steve leads several different ensembles. Sanctified Shells utilizes seashells in a larger context, transforming his horn section into a shell choir. His sextet with strings, which is highlighted on the Verve release Lotus Flower. His quartet and quintet provided a setting based in tradition and stretching the limits conceptually and stylistically. The Telek release in the Spur of the Moment features Steve with three different and distinct master pianists, Ray Charles, Chucho Valdez, and Stephen Scott. Over the course of a remarkable career spanning more than 5 decades, Turre has proved time and time again that he is one of the finest trombonists of the late 20th and early 21st century. Steve is also one of the most diverse. He is a composer, sideman, arranger, band leader, and educator. Steve continually evolves as a musician. He has a strong command of all musical genres, and when it comes to his distinct brand of jazz, he always keeps one foot in the past and one foot in the future. We're so happy to have him here, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Steve Turre.
Hey.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hey there, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good.
It's great to see you.
It's great to be seen.
There you go.
It is.
we had you down at our Summer Jazz Cafe probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe something like that. You were down here with Bruce Williams, and your son, I think, was playing drums.
Right.
Yeah, and it was great. It was a great show, and I can't wait to have you back.
Well,
To tell you the
beautiful.
truth.
Look forward to it. Yeah, I think that was Corcoran Holt on the bass and Oscar Perez on the piano.
That's right. Oscar was playing. Yep, you're right. Very good. Do you remember like every personnel from all your gigs?
A lot of, not every miss gets to be a blur after all.
I imagine.
Yeah.
But that's impressive. That's a testament to your memory.
Well, comes and goes.
You know, you've been on the Saturday Night Live band for years now, and
30.
you guys are back live. I understand.
Yeah.
How is that? How is that working?
Well, it's a little different than it was before. First of all, we get tested twice before each show, each week. You go in Thursday and you get swabbed, and they do the lab test, which is really accurate. Then Saturday morning, before we go into rehearsal and do the day's work, you get the quick test.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have the horn section downstairs on a different floor in a great big room. It's a
Oh
big,
wow.
it's big, and we're all like 10 to 15 feet apart with three-sided plexiglass walls that are like 10 feet tall between person. And we have in-ear monitors, a clip-on mic, and we watch the conductor through a TV monitor. And each of us has, it's like an iPad, but it has a mixing board on it, and you can adjust the sound so that you can hear yourself and hear everybody else that you need to hear.
Right. Not exactly the the intimate jazz experience, I imagine,
It
or
never,
any music.
it never was an intimate jazz experience. It's more like,
Oh, that's true.
you know, and they pipe us into the mix, and they have a cameraman down there that shoot us once in a while.
Hmm.
It's just a different feeling, but I follow the sound, so it's no problem. It's like recording along with a track or something, except that
Right.
we're watching a conductor. It's cool. I'm glad to be working again.
There you go. There you go. You're one of the few.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It really is.
Have you had any other live shows, or either now or coming up?
Yeah, both. I did Smoke in August at the Jazz Club in New York, live stream, no audience. In
Right.
September, I did the Detroit Jazz Festival, live stream, no audience. And I'm still not comfortable getting on an airplane. So we drove to Detroit and played and drove back to New York. And it was cool. And then this coming Friday, I'm performing with my sextet Yeah, Hartford Jazz Society is presenting me with a live stream, no audience, Friday night, and that's coming up. We'll drive up there.
I
So
think
when you
that's
do
going to
the
be that's going to be a new paradigm for a while now.
Well, until this vaccine kicks in.
Right.
so when you do the live stream no audience, are you performing somewhere, or are you performing from home, or do you go to a venue?
The venue, we go to the venue and just play. Because
Mhm.
so it's a different energy, but
Mhm.
come on and hit, just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about that down here, of starting to put something like that together that we could live stream. In fact, um, I was going to ask the our audience here if that's something they would attend. You know, a live stream. Would they attend it, and would they kick in a few shekels for it as well, because there's going to be costs to ours. So if you think that's a good idea, why don't there's a little reactions there. You just put like a thumbs up.
They can do a thumbs up.
I don't know. Is there a thumbs down? I hope not. No, I guess not. Um,
I'll tell you my experience with it, and having seen some too, is it's for the artist, it's a blessing to be able to perform, and as an observer, naturally nothing is going to be like being in the club and sitting a few feet from the performer and getting the energy right off the instrument. But
Right.
it's still better than looking at a clip on YouTube.
There you go.
It's much better than that.
Certainly.
You know.
Well, I know that our whenever we have produced events, one of our primary things that we thought about and prepared for was a good atmosphere and a good sound. Because that to me that says it all. So it seems to me that would have to really be top notch. Now when you're adding cameras, there has to be a good image and really good sound for it to be worthwhile, I imagine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll do better on YouTube
Yep.
without it.
No, but it's been a good experience for me so far.
I'm really intrigued by these shells, as maybe you could tell. um, when did that start with you?
1970.
Oh, you got a date specific.
Yeah. That's when it became part of my consciousness, shall we say.
Wow. 1970.
Consciousness.
Uh-huh.
Conch. The conch.
Consciousness. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I'm from originally the Bay Area. And I sat in with Roland Kirk when I was 18.
Wow.
And we became friends. And later on, and this is before I joined Ray Charles in 72. But in 69, 70, 71, whenever Roland Kirk would come through the Bay Area, he'd call me up and I'd play with him in the local club for the week. He'd give me $50 for the week or something. I didn't care. It was going to school. And, rock on. Man, he had 3 saxophones,
Right.
a nose flute, all kind of bells and whistles. And one time when he came through, he had a shell.
Oh, he had a shell?
Yeah. And, I'm going to say this publicly, regardless of what the Guinness Book of World Record is, Kenny G is not the champion of circular breathing. Roland Kirk is the champion of circular breathing.
I'm with you.
And we were playing in San Francisco at the Boat Band Club. And fate would have, it's open to the public. Anybody can come to the door. And as fate would have it, on a Friday night with a packed house, right the front table in front of the bandstand, there was this couple there that proceeded to get really sauced. And they started talking loud, ignoring the music, and people was getting aggravated. And the lady said, I remember the lady said to the guy, she said, man, I told you to take out the garbage before we left. And the guy said, I did. She said, no, you didn't. You left it by the car and blah, blah, blah. Oh, man. So Rasan, he picked up the shell and he just held the note and circular breathe. And after about 5 minutes, a long time to hold the note, they finally realized something was going on, and they quit talking and they looked up like, oh, wow. And then when they did that, everybody in the club, hey, you know. And then it was a moment of silence, and he put the tenor sax in his mouth and he played this beautiful ballad, kind of Ben Webster style, real breathy, you know. Oh man, it was a moment, you know, a real moment. And the sound of the show, it really struck a chord with me. So after the gig, I asked him, could I blow on him? He said, yeah. And I blew on him, and it was like, something's happening here. So later that year, I got one. And at first, I just played the one note, which is the natural note of the shell, like that. So you could tell what the note is when you cut it by hit.
Right.
In pitch. And then I remember I was playing my trombone, and I sit down with the shell, and I played a note, and I was in this big easy chair, and then I kind of dozed off for a minute, and I had my hand in the shell. Instead of holding it like this, I had my hand in the shell. And when I kind of came around, I played a note. I said, wow, it's a different pitch. And then I realized you could change the note by putting your hand in the shell.
There you go.
French horn players kind of do that a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
I can usually get a fourth out of each shell.
That's great. You also have the overtone series going up, right?
Not too many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the shell.
You know, I have a little clip here of I forget where it's from, but it's you playing the shells. Let's check this out. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Now I have to set that up. Stand by. I think it's this one. Let's try that. And that working?
Hey, you got us dancing there.
Hot dog. Is that Danilo Perez on piano?
Yeah, and Giovanni Hidalgo on the congas, Ayerto, and now that was with Dizzy's United Nations band with Dizzy Gillespie.
That's fantastic.
Well, that bring back memories. It make me smile, man. It was such a great group of guys, man. We had so much fun with Dizzy.
There's that Rassan influence there. The two at once, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What
I mean,
year
who
was
else
that clip?
Who else would think about, playing two conchs at the same time?
I don't know about conks. Other people are doing it now. But
Well, yeah.
I saw Clark Terry play trumpet and flugelhorn.
Oh, yeah. He does that. But, by the way, you pronounce it conch or conch?
Conch.
Conch, yeah.
There's a lot of names for it. And,
Somewhere in Polynesia, they call it poo, I think.
Yeah, poo and caracol and in ancient Mexico they called it aticocoli.
Aha.
All kind of, that's an Aztec name for it. When I went there, they told me that the name for the shell is aticocoli. And carrucho is another name. It's, depending on what country, culture.
Right. I noticed one of the pictures I used was you at Teotihuacan. I spent a lot of time there when I was in Mexico.
Isn't it beautiful?
Beautiful place, yeah.
Wow.
And a pyramid, and then I saw you in the pyramids.
Yeah.
Who was that with? Was that Blakey?
No, I went there just to do a concert with a quartet. I think, man, who was on that gig? Victor Lewis, George, and I can't remember who played. Oh, he was on the Tonight Show. Fabulous bass player. He's in Michigan, at University. I'll think of his name in a minute.
That's great. Carmen, do you want to? I see there's a bunch of questions in here. Do you want to follow up on some of those?
Sure. Yeah, we have quite a few questions. I'm going to kind of center a little bit on I think you said conch. We have one from Diane. And Diane, if you want to turn your phone on or turn your Zoom on and add more to it, you can. But her question is, what type of modification do you need to make the conch shell to get a good sound? She has a conch shell, but she's not getting much of a sound out of it. So can you give her some tips, some pointers?
You have to cut a hole and go ahead.
Well, first of all, is there a hole in the side like here?
No.
Let me see there. Oh, that's just dark on the side up in here. That's just dark. There's no hole.
No hole.
A lot to get the meat out, because they're good to eat, To get the meat out, you saw them hit it with a hammer, and then they pull the animal out. If the hole is there, you got to patch the hole. But that one doesn't have a hole. But
No.
what I do is take a hacksaw and cut it off.
Oh, like cut this part off?
No, where it comes to the point.
Right.
Where it comes to the point here. Up at the little part, up at the top. Yes.
Okay.
But it depends if you play trumpet or trombone. I play trombone, so
I'm a flute and saxophone player, but anyway.
Buzz your lips. It's gonna tickle. It'll feel funny.
Play a little, but so right there, I cut a small hole right there. That's.
You cut it off even, flat.
Okay.
Yeah, I cut mine about the same as a trombone mouthpiece.
Okay.
Trombone mouthpiece. I cut it about the same. And
that's why I considered it a brass instrument of sorts, because you're buzzing your lips into a cupped mouthpiece.
I thought maybe you could just blow into the shell without doing that.
No, you have to create a mouthpiece in it.
Okay.
And when you cut it, it's irregular. It's not even all the way around. So if you can see there, the white part is the shell. And I put plastic up around here to make it even and smooth, so it won't cut my lip.
Okay.
Mess me up, so I can play it and then go back and still play the trombone.
Right.
And I make them myself. I make them by hand, and it's
Oh,
just
wow.
trial and error. But make sure there's no sharp edges. You don't want to cut your lip because it
Right.
can.
You know, I happen to go on Amazon and I noticed you can buy them on Amazon. Of
Really?
course,
Wow.
right?
Yeah, this is a really old one from Florida, souvenir. But yeah, thank you. It sounds great.
That one you could play that
So
one.
good luck, Diane. Are you going to try it?
We'll see. I don't know if I want to cut this off or not, but maybe.
It's
We'll
a-
see.
So, Steve, that kind of leads to some other questions. There were some questions I had, which was, so you collect your own shells? I mean, do you just go and, I mean, do you purchase them? You find them? I mean, how do you?
all different ways. The ones at the beach ain't no good, no good,
Okay.
because they've been washed up in the sun and the water and the sand and the waves, and they got little holes in them and they leak and they're not very.
Hmm,
Got to get ones from divers, because they have a lot of value for food.
okay.
So after they're done with the food, you take them and make the instrument. So
So,
I travel. I pick them up different places. Sometimes people give them to me. Different, no one way.
about how many would you say you have? Do you have a particular number or an estimate?
I got so many I haven't even made into instruments yet.
Really? So
Uh,
over 20?
oh yeah, I got that many for the shell choir that I've made instruments.
I have a question. Is there a way to tune them to a certain pitch or
They are
just whatever it is, right?
they are what they are.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
That's why it's trial and error. Some of them are right in the crack, and I don't really use those. I find ones that have a good center of pitch, and I use those to play.
And do you make critters and salads with the meat?
Well, no, I don't. But
Man, if you ever been to the Caribbean, folks, go
Yeah.
for the conch critters.
yeah, like when I go to St. Thomas, they cook it in a
Yep.
pressure. They cook in a pressure cooker and they make a stew. And
Right.
great.
Yeah,
And then,
you go right there to the like right by the shoreline, and they're getting them live and fresh and just chopping it up and making salads or fritters.
Yeah,
Fritters. I meant fritters, not critters. Fritters.
great. That's great. Yeah.
and then Jackie wants to know, are there any special, like, do they last a long time? Do you have to coat them with anything, like a sealant or anything, or do they just,
They're okay.
they're okay?
Yeah.
They-
This is my first shell from 1970.
My goodness, 1970. Wow.
My mother got it for me when she
Listen,
Wow.
Ar-
Can we hear it?
archaeologists have been digging them up from centuries and thousands of years, so they last.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, we want to hear it.
Yeah, could we hear it a little bit? The first one from 1970 is your first one.
That's the one I played for you already. That's it.
Wow, that's amazing. So you'll have to you'll need to kind of, do you have notes on them? Because that's pretty incredible. I mean, you have to archive them.
Is that why Dizzy hired you, because you played that for him?
No. I play trombone as my main instrument.
Right.
But it's very natural that's why in the show choir I have trombone players that I've taught. I have a trumpet player too, and I make the mouthpiece much smaller on the shells for the trumpeter. But with a trombone, to lower the pitch, you put your hand out, put the slide out. With the shell, to lower the pitch, you put your hand in. It's a similar motion. So it's very natural for trombone players to adjust pitch from your ear. You learn just where to put the slide. Same thing here. You learn where to put your hand, and it's very natural for trombone players.
Very
So
nice.
I can get half step.
French horn players too to use the similar technique.
That's right. And so that's, it's simple. The one thing that makes it very different is the shell takes a lot more wind, you got to pump a lot of air through it, and it takes more physical energy. But the trombone takes more focus
I saw you with that when you stood up and played. I saw it with that diaphragm action.
Oh,
that was clearly working.
You got to pump it, man.
Yep.
But you look at the trombone mouthpiece. See, in the bottom of the mouthpiece, there's a throat. It gets small. But with the shell, there's no throat. It's just big and it stays big, and it's like a megaphone. It starts big and it just keeps getting bigger. So it takes as much air as you want to give it, man. It's that's an adjustment.
The interesting thing though is through the millennia, they used it like at sea and even on land for calls, battle calls and things like that, because the sound carries tremendously far.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's got. It's interesting too about the presence of the sound. When I record it, I have to always talk to the engineer because they want you to test the mic, and the shell doesn't have the same overtones as the brass. A brass instrument is made from metal, so there's a lot of high overtones in that. So if I play the note, and then I play the same note on the shell, it doesn't have the highs in it that the trombone has.
Right.
So all the sound energy is on that one frequency, and it makes the needles go, and they freak out in the booth and they're going to turn it down. I say, don't turn it down unless it distorts. If it distorts, it'll turn it down, but otherwise it won't have any presence at all. But it's unique in that regard. It's like a sine wave. All the energy is on that one frequency instead of being taken up with overtones as well.
Let me play this one clip of seashells with the Japanese drums, and then we'll move on to trombone. How about that?
International Jazz Day, Kyoto.
Right. Let's see. That might be the one. Yep. How about that?
The Tacho drums are something else.
That's really something.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys are really,
They're
really
serious.
putting it to it, too. Yeah.
Serious.
That was in Kyoto.
Yeah. And that was very spontaneous. I remember that. That was quite a thrill. It's beautiful there in Kyoto. And what we did for the rehearsal is we just kind of talk through it. I said, I'm gonna play something. When I go like this, you hit a note. And then when I finish with the big shell, you go on and do your thing. And I play with you. And we just kind of let it happen, you know.
It really, it was something very special. I'm sure you felt it too.
Oh yeah. I'd love to do a record with them someday with the shell choir, with all the shells, and actually write some music for that. But I'd have to learn their drum patterns and their routines
Right, right.
to write something to fit with it, which can be done, but you know, it's a matter of travel and money and all the things that it takes to produce art.
Exactly right.
It is something I
Exactly right.
do one day.
Carmen, did you have a question?
I did. Steve, it's kind of changing the direction a little bit, but you've worked with Rahsaan Roland Kirk and you've worked with Ray Charles, and I think both of them have been very influential in your career. I'd be curious as to know what are some lifelong lessons that you took away from working with these fabulous musicians and artists, and how did they influence your career, and what have you kept? What is something that you learned from them that you kept that keeps you going and keeps you moving?
Wow. There's so many people I've learned so much from. All I've been so fortunate. Well, starting with Rahsaan, he really woke me up to the lineage of our music. Because, you know, everybody becomes aware of our music at a different time, in a different place in the history of the music. Let's say some kid today might hear some so-called hip-hop jazz and think that that's jazz. And they don't know anything about Louis Armstrong or Duke Ellington or Charlie Parker or Miles and Train or, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew about Louis Armstrong and New Orleans traditional. And I knew about big band jazz, Ellington and Basie, because my mom and dad met at the Count Basie dance, and they were always they were playing that music.
Yeah.
But that's listening wise. Then when I was in high school, I heard J.J. Johnson, and that was a revelation because I didn't know you could play a trombone like that. I'd never heard a trombone played like that, and so I became enamored with JJ and tried to learn to play that way. And I was working with Rahsaan. He would play the whole history of the music. He wasn't just one kind of groove, you know. He played many different, kind of what he felt like playing. But it was still authentic. He wasn't just copying the licks from a different area. He was being Rahsaan, but he knew that music here.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did some Ellington, I played a solo, and afterwards he'd tell me, Don't play no bebop. You're playing like JJ on Ellington. Don't play that. This Ellington. I said, what do you mean? He said, you don't know what I'm talking about? I said, no, you know. So after the gig, he took me to his hotel room. And this is in 69. And he used to travel with one of the little record players,
Oh yeah.
portable one, and a bunch of records. He had a suitcase with the records and a record player. And he put on records for me, Vic Dickinson and who was Trummy Young and Lawrence Brown and Tricky Sam, and I was listening to it, and I said, "Oh yeah, I like that." But you know, JJ said, "But JJ, nothing." He said, "As far back as you can go will directly influence how far forward you can go. It's all
Mhm.
connected to if you got a hole in the lineage, it's going to show." He
Mm.
said, "You got to be rooted. The stronger the root in the tree, the more fruit it will bear."
Mhm.
And he said, "You try and play." So I got the record and tried to learn it. It was hard to play that way. Just like piano players, you know, they're talking about, oh, so and so is great. He's doing what's, and then you say, okay, do you know about Art Tatum? No, who's that?
Mm.
You put on Art Tatum for it to blow anybody's mind.
Mhm.
I'm just a piano player.
Mhm.
I was just listening to Art Tatum the other day. My goodness, it's unbelievable a human being could do that. You know, so Rasan kind of opened me up to the lineage.
Mhm.
Uh, Ray Charles, he didn't really school me except by example. Later on, he played on my record, and that was a thrill, just hanging out in the studio with him and all that. But just listening to him sing every night, and he plays many styles too. He's not a one trick pony, you know. He plays, you know, everything from country and western to blues to jazz to you name it. And, but whatever he does is Ray Charles, and it's all about this soul, all coming from the heart, and that really struck a nerve with me because that's, you know, that's what attracts me to the people that you know. Everybody is attracted to some sound that they like for their music.
Mhm.
For me, it's the feeling. It's a certain feeling.
Mhm.
And Rasan had it, Ray Charles had it, you know, Miles had it. Never got to play with Miles, but I love his music. I got to play with Dizzy.
Mhm.
I learned a lot from Dizzy. He
Mhm.
showed me things too. And he knew about positions on the trombone. And he showed me how to, because it's some of those bebop tunes are really hard on the trombone. And I was struggling with the slide. He said, "Why don't you use this alternate position here? Try it like this." And I said, "Oh man, why didn't I think of that?" You know, he taught me a lot of stuff, Dizzy, and about harmony too. And McCoy taught me about harmony. You know, people try and make uh, what we call playing changes so complicated, but if you can conceptualize it more through simplicity,
Mhm.
it flows.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Steve, do you have a link that we can share if people want to connect with your music, either buy your CDs or whatever is possible? Is
Not
it
my, you know, my latest records are on Smoke, and I'm sure they have my stuff at Amazon and all that. But I don't have my own store, so to speak, or a page, so to speak. You know, I just, you know, there's a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and I haven't never posted anything on YouTube
Mhm.
myself, but there's a ton of it.
just shows up?
Well, that's beautiful because I think it's something when you don't have to be your own marketing person when you have that kind of material online from people
But
really appreciating.
there's something interesting. It is. I have a book. Hal Leonard Publishing Company did a book, a transcription of some of my solos,
Oh, wow.
and I think it's only probably for advanced players. Um,
What's the name of your book?
The Steve Turre collection.
Okay.
But you know, it was,
Did they run it by you first?
well, they had, let me tell you, they had somebody to do the transcription.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let me see it. And they sent it to me. And the first page had like 30 or 40 mistakes.
Yeah, I know that scene.
I mean, so I have a dear friend named John Farnsworth. His brother Joe Farnsworth is a great drummer. You may have heard of Joe Farnsworth.
Yeah, sure.
That's his brother is John, and John plays sax and trombone. Very good musician too, and he's a buddy, and he's got really good ears for that kind of stuff. So both of us, he came over and we, you know, there's more than one way to write the same rhythm, to write the same thing.
Right.
And we put our heads together. How can I write this phrase to make it as simple as possible and have it be playable instead of, instead of writing the 64th rest, I just put laid back on the field.
Right. You communicate, the way to communicate effectively, efficiently.
And then I had to relearn my solos, which was, I don't think about what I'm playing, but I learned it and I played along with it. So it come back and then I can tell him what slide positions I'm using. And so that's all that information is in the book, the alternate positions, and it's correct. You check
There you
it.
go. There
Double.
you go.
Yeah.
Paquito always tells a story about somebody that on a record date, somebody put a piece of music on a stand and asked him to play it. And Paquito took one look at it and says, "There's no way I can never play that. It's impossible. It's too hard." And they said, "Well, you played it because that's a transcription of your solo."
Yeah, but that's a different thing. The way
Exactly.
you're not thinking. It's like talking. I'm not spelling every word that I say when I talk to you now. I'm just talking. Same
Exactly
thing.
right.
I'm just the flow. And I've also found, and when Dizzy taught me quite a few tunes that I didn't know, or I'd heard, but I had never actually played before until I played with him. And he would just show them to me at sound check. And when you learn a tune by ear, the information comes through your ears. When you read a piece of music and you learn a tune by reading, it comes through your eyes first instead of your ears first. When I read something and learn a tune, if I don't play it all the time, I'm gonna forget it. But when I learn something by ear, I don't forget it.
You got it. Yeah.
It's a different process.
So I'm gonna post the link to your website. There's at least some pictures and info there, right? And that's in the chat space for everyone. That's Steve's website. Carmen, did you have a little couple of words to say?
Yeah. I just want to say, one, this has been a wonderful evening, and just Steve, it's been a pleasure listening to you talk about playing the conch, and I actually know how to say it now. I feel like I've learned something as well. But no, it was just wonderful talking to you tonight. And I just want to say, everyone, Jazz Arts Project, Steve talked a lot about going to be coming up and doing some live streaming performances. He's done some already, and he's been going to do some more. And as you see, the community is working together to make sure that we keep bringing jazz to you. We want to keep bringing the arts to you. And Joe, if you think Joe, I want you to unmute yourselves if you can, but if you think Joe has been doing a great job from week to week, let's give him a round of applause. I think tonight was quite, I told Joe a couple of weeks ago, we've come a long way from that very first show. And tonight, I think the intro was documentary worthy. Was a wonderful piece talking about the history of brass, teaching us about and making the evolution towards the conch shell. And then, of course, followed by the most talented and great music player who plays the concho as well as trombone, Steve Turre. So what a wonderful show. So if you like what we're doing and you want us to keep doing it every week, please donate to us at www.jazzartsproject.org/donate. No dollar is too small. We take everything that you will share with us, and we appreciate every penny, every dollar. And just know we are entering into the season of giving, so please do what you can. There's many reasons to celebrate. I will keep those reasons to myself, but I have started an early celebration with my Christmas tree back here. So let's get into the spirit of things. We are making it. We're making it through this together. So let's keep supporting one another. That's all I got for you, Joe.
You're
You're
muted,
muted, Joe.
Muted, Joe.
Thank you, Carmen.
And I said such pearls of wisdom, and I was muted.
Joe.
Were they?
Thanks so much, Carmen. I appreciate that. And I just want to remind everyone that we are here every Monday. We're committed to doing this every week, and this is number 26, I believe, of these soirees. And don't go yet, because Steve, I want to play one more clip of you in Perugia, Italy. And I think this is an exciting one. And, we haven't really done much trombone yet. So this is your mastery of the trombone. That's, okay. Is this it? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, that's it. I thought I'd also throw in some Dizzy and then some Phil Woods here.
that handsome young man?
Oops.
Who's that handsome young man there?
That was about like 89.
This was this for. There you go.
So I guess that
Push the wrong button. You're muted.
clips
There you
over
go.
30 years.
Yeah, that was up there.
You still look the same. You're not aging.
Uh,
I don't want to see that picture in the attic.
you know, the body is it changes from day to day.
I'll drink to that.
You know, but man, that was up tempo there.
Yeah.
Most people can't get them to play that fast anymore. You don't want to deal with that.
That was smoking.
Yeah.
It was absolutely smoking. Wow.
Bobby, Peter Walton, Bobby Hutcherson, what a band. You know?
Yep.
But Dizzy was such a great teacher. Everybody learned from him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, you're a trumpet player. Have you seen that clip on YouTube of Dizzy playing Tin Tin Dale duet with the bass player?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's a masterpiece. And this is back when he was in
Yeah.
top form. It's amazing.
I'll look it up.
Black and white, you know, it's not a modern thing where they keep cutting the camera. It's just you can see what's going on. Masterpiece.
You know, all I have to say, you know, we have an academy, a jazz academy program here in our organization.
Mhm.
And we've been sidelined for a while, but we're going to start it up in January. But, you know, I've always thought that these kids today have all the benefit of all kinds of performances by the greats right on YouTube, right at their fingertips. I mean, in their phone, you know. They essentially have a history lesson on the music. And, you know, that's one of the things that we encourage them to check out. And not all of them do, of course, but it's available to them.
They get a chance and do check it out. They get it.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you mentioned earlier. You had mentioned that your son in Red Bank performed as the drummer. So, are your children musicians? How many children do you have, and are they musicians? And what are they doing?
Well, my daughter is a singer, and she was the last Raylette to sing with Ray Charles to be hired. She was the last of the line, shall we say?
How about that? Andromeda, right?
Andromeda, yeah. And then after Ray passed, she went for a year and a half and worked in Japan, singing with the big band at Tokyo Disney. And then she sang many places after that internationally. But now she's married and she just had a little son. So my grandpa, baby's about a year old, so she's still doing, and she hasn't been worked since the lockdown like everybody else.
Yeah.
And my son plays in my band as well as other gigs, and he's a drummer.
Well, Steve, you know, we could do this all night, but I know your wife's upstairs cooking, so I know you're in for some good dinner. But I appreciate it. It's so great to have you. We could with you. I could do it every night, with the amount of music and information that you have to offer. But I appreciate you, and I can't wait to have you back down here in a live venue.
Well, I look forward to it. I really do.
Well, that's terrific. As usual, I will close the proceedings and drop the recording and the Facebook. And for those of you who would like to hang a little bit, there's an after gig hang as usual for a few minutes if you want to just chat off the record. There it is. And like that, Steve, thanks again so much.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you all for coming. Nick, come by next week, and we'll do it again. We'll announce the new guests in a day or two.
You're still recording, Joe.
Thanks so much. I'm about to close it down.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see
It's
you
only
next
5
time.
o'clock.
5
It's only
o'clock where you
5:10.
It's
It's
5
so
o'clock
early.
somewhere.
It's 5:10.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.